Welcome to Cut the Bull, an insightful podcast which addresses the news of the day and the cultural issues plaguing our society, bringing logic and context to these topics and discussing solutions too real for mainstream pundits. Now, here are your hosts, Charles Love and Wilfred Riley.
Hello and welcome to Cut the Bull. I am Charles Love, alongside my co-host Wilfred Riley, and our guest this week is friend of the show, family member, part-time co-host, and comedian Lou Perez. Lou, welcome to the show.
Great to be back, guys.
Well, now you're the focus, so I get to just listen to you talk and just sit back and listen. There's nobody else on. And I thought we'd talk about comedy. Among other things, we could talk about some current events and what you all have been seeing and hearing. But I know that for the last 3 to 5 years, people have been concerned about the future and the quality of comedy. I know you wrote a book about something about comedy and, you know, how that has been changing and how it adapts. And you do comedy, which we may show a bit of your work later. But as I was saying to you when I thought about that, all of those things may come up. But I was started out with just the fact that, you know, I was telling you how I grew up in the hood, like Chicago. I mean, like Will, him in Chicago, me and Gary. And, you know, it was just natural that you just made fun of everything, everybody. You know, the fat kids had nicknames. The ugly people, you made fun of them. In order to defend themselves, they had to be funny. You know, it just was a natural thing to do. And so, what my best friend from high school, we were always like, his simple phrase was just "funny is funny." So you can make fun of anything. You just have to do it well. It's in poor taste when you can't make people laugh. But there's no topics off the table. So I watch you work. It is pretty interesting since October 7th. A lot of people, you can watch, won't touch stuff. It's only the serious commentary. But you find a way to mock people and still make fun of it. So how do you thread that needle and walk that line without offending people? And do you get concerned about that?
Well, I don't know if I'm able to do it without offending people. I think I managed to offend a lot of people, but I think we're very similar in how we grew up. I think that there's something about growing up with working class people, especially dudes, where so much of your interaction is just goofing on each other and just making fun of each other. And it gets to the point where, like, I'm 41 now, and I look back and I'm like, man, maybe it would have been better if we, were a little bit more supportive of each other instead of making fun of each other every day. Like maybe some dudes could be astronauts if we were like, hey man, it's really cool that you're doing so well in science class. But I think there's something about, being willing to make fun and poke fun and take and give it back, that I think is really important. And also to get to a point too where you don't take everything so personally. I think one of the issues, I think where a lot of offense comes nowadays, is that any bit of criticism, forget about even like a joke, is taken as a personal attack on you and who you are. It's very hard for people, I think, for some people to be able to exist in a world where you're incapable of taking any kind of criticism whatsoever.
Well, what do you think about that? Do you think that, one, was he right about maybe we should have been a little bit nicer to each other when we were younger?
Maybe. I mean, so like I remember in high school, people would sometimes say like you play too much when they got tired of being joked on. Like, I'm tired of this shit. Like, we have to motivate ourselves for, the meet or the game or the test. So I mean, there is a place for that. But I think the fact that you could say that indicates that people knew that. Like, okay, it's time to shut up and start training or whatever. No, the basic idea that you like capping, roasting, the dozens, all that stuff, that's totally healthy. That exists in every working class neighborhood I've ever been in, Black, Appalachian, Irish, Italian, Mexican. And I think it's very healthy. It's no shock that a lot of people leave those neighborhoods to be very successful, that a lot of people leave those neighborhoods to become soldiers, salesmen, other things where you have to deal with a high level of potential rejection or even danger. Most people from those areas know how to like date and talk to women. I mean, so that's I think overall it's good. You have to keep the sharp edge down. There are some real bullies that hide in the crowd, but no, it's good. Last thing, I think that the backlash to comedy is really just part of a larger backlash to the idea of ever criticizing anyone. So who's the young gun? Matt Rife, good-looking guy. He recently got a bunch of crap because one of his jokes is about battered women. And all these women started following him because he was just a good-looking dude. And Rife is like, no, I'm actually a comic. Like, fuck you. Like, why are you criticizing me about my feminism? Like, I'm not a feminist. I'm some bro that does comedy. And it's an incredible the contrast between all these butthurt people and this young comic just sort of saying, like, I respect some of this, but I don't know any of you. You chose to come to an X-rated comedy show. You know, how dare you ask me not to criticize you? But that extends to, would they have the same attitude toward their husband, toward their friends? Yes.
Yeah, you're leaving out his response though.
Oh
He
yeah,
doubled down.
those helmets for like special needs kids on his Twitter page. Yeah, no, it was just really funny because that's like a joke I would make or anyone would make. That's from like any middle class or below area. It's so like if you're so soft and sensitive that you're going to criticize a well-known kind of blue comic for telling jokes. Here's one of those helmets you put on special needs kids so they don't hurt their little headsies. And again, people started freaking out about that and saying that he was offensive to the retarded community or whatever the term is now and so on down the line. I mean, like, it's just totally ignore that, move on with your life would be my advice to comics and anyone else in a tough business.
Right. I'll go ahead, Lou.
Yeah, and with the Rife stuff too, you know, you would hear all these people saying like, oh, he's alienating his female audience, or he's got all of his female fans, you know, upset with him. And something that I found was, especially when it comes to like public apologies, and something that I noticed is that, you know, most of the time when people, you know, especially like celebrities are like going and making public apologies, they're doing it to people who, one, probably never bought their shit, aren't giving them money,
right,
and probably don't actually support them. And I think that might be a similar thing here. Like I'd be very interested to know how many of the people who are mad at Matt Rife have purchased a ticket to see him live or have bought his special or anything like that. Zero, exactly. So even that, you know, it's like, you know, it's like this you know, play acting of boycotting. No, I will never buy his product again. You never bought his fucking product.
Right,
you know?
Right. He lost exactly $0.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's something too, you know, we were talking about, you know, making fun of people and knowing like when it's time to, okay, quit playing around because you're going to go one step further and we're going to fight. So, you know, just, you know, quit fucking around. I think, you know, over the past 10 years or so, the genre of roast battles have been really popular. Like every single comedy club basically around the country has some version of a roast battle where two comics go head to head and will make, for the most part, like the bluest jokes that they can. Like if somebody's trans, they're going to go make trans jokes. If somebody's black, they're going to go and make jokes about race. So the popularity of that, I think, actually shows that no, like people like that, and people like that, you know, sort of that release valve where like maybe they might not feel too comfortable doing tweets that are like racially, you know, tinged or anything like that. But when it comes to watching comedians who are able to actually get it out, I think that's attractive to a lot of people. It's like, cool, here's a space where this could actually be done and everybody's cool with it.
Is it likely an overcorrection? Like Will mentioned, it's the same. It's just the reaction in comedy is just a similar reaction to what they do in every other facet. So is it an overcorrection? Because I know Will talked about, you know, just to stop playing. I grew up in a town with to be honest, that my friends didn't understand and didn't give a fuck about your stop playing. In fact, that means go harder. So you had to either learn to fight or you need to sharpen your comebacks, because the only way he was going to stop is when you embarrassed them. That's just the way it was, right? So I mean, like, I could tell some stories that people just like, I can't believe you do. I mean, completely and say, like, I look back now, I was like, that was just stupid. I can't believe we did that. But that was just what they did. And, you know, people talk about bullying, whatever now. So is it the fact that, I mean, obviously it's gone too far, but do you think it came from a place of, all right, let's find the middle ground? Because right now we're a little bit too far over here and they were trying to bring it back. Why do you think it started? I know the last 2 or 3 years how things have gotten worse because of the culture, but how did it start? Was it trying to correct something?
Yeah, Will, I'm interested in what you have to say about that.
I think so. Yeah, just like in terms of what we're seeing now in the culture, I think like I wrote an article once called "We Need a Return of the Jocks," but that was only like half serious. Like I think that the people now, if you want to put it in like high school or college mythological terms, the people that are running culture are the people that felt left out of culture. Like a lot of theater kids would be my 2-word summary. A lot of gay folks, some legitimate. Others discovering they're bisexual in the college party scene and that's an identity now. But I mean, like on and on, just like people that often legitimately felt minority kids in white schools that often legitimately felt kind of left out. And the idea was we want to stop the things that made us feel left out, that made us feel hurt. Like we got roasted a little harder. And that's fine to an extent. But the problem is that most of the people, even in those groups, like black kids in white schools tend to be pretty funny, don't want to do that. And certainly the majority of people in society don't want to do that. So like when Lou said, you look at Roast Battle and like there's a TV show, Roast Battle. Like it's consistently very highly rated. The majority of people who went to a high school like seeing people make fun of each other sometimes. So it's okay to, basically in one sense, it's okay to protect kids 5% more in high school. But you can't stop people from capping on each other or playing sports or asking girls for dates because then you start damaging all of society. And that's where we are right now.
And also there's something too where, you know, I often hear people say, you know, like bring back bullying, right? And it's like, you know, let's be honest about that, because I think a lot of bullying that happens to kids, if that were to happen to the adults saying we got to bring back bullying, those adults would be calling the police and saying, I need to get a fucking cop here. Right. So something's happening where it's like, let's stop bullying. But yet when you look around, and I mean, maybe it's just because of the clips that I see shared on Twitter, X, it's like a lot of kids getting into freaking like a group beat downs in high school. And I'm like, what's going to like, is there a correction there? Could we at least like correct that and like make sure that kids are physically safe, you know, in high school versus, them being misgendered or whatever.
Yeah, maybe they should have just made fun of him instead of stomping him.
Yeah, I would take
maybe
that over an ass
kicking
anytime.
Means.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's also that big division in society. Like, I think this is a really important point we don't think much about. Because we're talking about all just being from not even like hyper hood, but regular neighborhoods, like working class, lower income areas, that kind of thing. And again, remember, 60% of the country probably still is from those backgrounds, urban, rural, maybe a little more. So in those schools, like when you see like their entire YouTube channels called like hood fights and redneck fights, like when you see those videos in high school, yeah, you see 12-on-10 fights or 12-on-1 fights, which are a lot worse. But those are in one sector of society that, except sometimes when it's white on black or black on white, no one really cares about. Like, I think everyone knows you have to fight in poor schools. There's a big distinction between that and the people that are complaining about misgendering. Like, no one's going to school in the Marcy projects and saying, don't misgender me. Someone would just punch you in the face with a lock. Like, it'd be a wrap. I mean, that's it. So there's the distinction between like the very helicopter parents, upper middle class Americans, and everybody else that I think we see here more than anywhere else. Like, if you look at mom groups on Facebook and Twitter, they're completely insane. Like asking these questions, like, should you let your kid sleep with you until he's 9? That was one that my fiance showed me today. Or like, is it ever okay to discipline a child? Like slap on the ass, time out, like ever? Or do you just talk them through everything they do? And the thing you notice about this is it's only on social media and it's only a certain category of women. Most people just spank their kids or put them in timeout or do whatever just like they used to. So that's the split. But the people over here are making culture.
Yeah. There's and there something we have a 3.5-year-old and a 2-year-old, and we say no a lot. And the idea of allowing these two, you know, nowhere near fully formed human beings to go about their day and do whatever they want without any kind of discipline. I mean, I can't imagine we'd have a house right now. it would be burnt down. You know, something about, you know, comedy, like over the past, I would say probably like 7 or 8 years, is we've spent so much time talking about, you know, what you can and cannot say, cancel culture, where the line is, you're going too far and all that. And I just think I mean, I wrote a book, about this stuff, and just think about all the time spent talking about comedy and this stuff that could have been spent actually making comedy. Like I just wonder, like the amount of time that, like, for example, like Chappelle had to spend commenting on the responses to his comedy, right, where he could have been like very well doing like numerous new seasons of Chappelle Show if he wanted to, or more feature length comedies and all that. So it in a way, like it's an interesting conversation. I like having the conversation, but it's also like, man, where that time could better be spent.
But you both mentioned class, so I want to talk about that briefly. Why does that play a part? Why can't elites be funny? Why are elites more likely to be offended by capping? What is it about the class differences that make people more likely to find different things funny, but also more likely to be offended by things?
Well, I wonder with the class thing, and well, I want to definitely hear what you have to say about it, because there was a time where, like, the gatekeepers of comedy, like the elites in comedy, were all like Harvard Lampoon guys. Like they were coming at like I think like PJ O'Rourke and Conan O'Brien and right, all the guys behind Animal House and all that. It was sort of like, if you went to Harvard, like you were the elite, like funny dudes. And then, obviously then there were, Richard Pryor didn't go to Harvard. So, you had the greats there, but for a while there was this really like male sensibility in comedy. And there was a sardonic, willingness to also take on really, touchy subjects like PJ O'Rourke. I wasn't aware of all of his work. Some of his work is like, holy shit, dude, I can't believe that you actually, got away with saying this stuff. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure like when the shift happened.
Right. And obviously you talked about Pryor, and of course people would talk about people on stage, but if you add all of comedy as the component, yes, you got the Pryors and the people like that, but from a writing standpoint, most of those people weren't in the rooms writing comedy sketches. They weren't doing the TV stuff. So all of those people were educated. I'm sure the Eric Isles and Jones and the guys from Monty Python weren't were well read, so to speak. So yeah, so there was an element of that. So it's not even about who was creating the comedy, though, Will, but the bigger that's important. But the bigger part is why are they offended? Why are they more likely to be offended?
Like when Lou says, some of the best comedians or some of the best producers of comic content, like the National Lampoon guys, Harvard Lampoon guys, so on, used to be kind of like upper middle class, funny, like rumpled Brooks Brothers blazer, drink in your hand. If you ever see PJ O'Rourke's interviews. Yeah, I mean, I think that the answer is anyone can be funny. Like anyone can be anything. I mean, I don't think there are large genetic differences between like the races, the social classes or whatever. And that's one of the things that I argue. I mean, there are major cultural differences, background differences. But yeah, rich guys used to be funny. I mean, and I think that that's partly because that sort of male cap on you, army barracks aesthetic used to kind of cross group lines. Mm-hmm. I mean, everyone used to do 4 years in the military. Right. So I mean, you might be in the Air Force if you were rich, but it's going to be that same chunk of your life playing cards with guys named Tex. And that's going to be a situation as brutal as anything, sitting around one of those old aluminum lunch tables. So as that changed, I think the answer today is that the upper class is more vulnerable to intellectual trends. The upper class is more vulnerable to trends in general, actually. Mm-hmm. And I think most trends are bullshit, and this is important. So, like, my girl and I were watching, like, Fashion Week. It was one of them, like, Milan or something. It was some bootleg cable channel. But this stuff was just garbage, and it was all, like, $8,000. But it was, like, Kanye West's, like, line that's inspired by, like, Star Wars and slavery. Like, other people that were just wearing, like, piles of rags. And it was, like, feathers from exotic birds and all this crap. And the reality is that almost all of those people would look better if they just went to like Juicy or Ann Taylor or whatever and bought a top, So there's a lot to be said for classic ideas. The rich, the Harvard people, they're more prone to hear non-classic ideas. And for the past 40 years, most of those have been garbage. Critical theory, fourth wave feminism, sensitivity training, DEI, talk therapy, your inner child going back to the 70s. So now those people aren't as funny because, like it or not, they've internalized all this crap. Debating against it, I sometimes feel myself internalizing some of it, like the power relation stuff. And then you realize it's all just garbage. It's just like all morals are, but it's just crap. This is more so than anything else, more so than Christianity or science or whatever, just crap people made up. But it really affects you. People really believe this. Will you have kids as the planet warms? Like, these are forums and women's magazines.
Right. Lou, when did you start seeing it happen? Was it like a switch? Did it, because some things, you get into the warm water and then it slowly boils. And sometimes you just get on stage and everything's fine. And one day everybody's mad about everything. I'll tell a story about my non-comedy world where it happened to me. But what did you like experience in the shift in comedy?
Yeah, so I didn't always do like political satire.
Right.
So
okay.
in around 2015, that's when I started doing political satire, and it was sort of like towards the end of the Obama administration.
Mhm.
So I had like some sketches where I was goofing on like Obama. So like one of the sketches I had was where did the anti-war movement go for the past 8 years of the Obama administration?
He liked to bomb people.
Yeah.
Sometimes Americans. Yeah.
Droning random people. Yeah. He did his thing.
He did it. He did say
Your car would explode, a couple kids in it. And Barack did that.
Yeah.
Americans.
He did a wedding in Yemen. So I think what was the line I had? I said he couldn't be there in person, but he sent a gift anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I did like a thing, where, for the past 8 years, where the hell has the anti-war movement been? And I did like a Vice documentary, mockumentary sort of thing. And it turns out they've been hanging out in a backyard in Echo Park, LA. They're just waiting.
He'll be gone soon.
For a Republican president, and then they can, kind of come out
writing notes that they can say when this will be perfect, but we can't say it now.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, like, we're making jokes, but this actually happens. Like, there's a guy who studied the New York Times references to the homeless. And the homeless, that's a real American problem. We have an opiate epidemic in rural America, blah, blah, blah. Like, the homeless don't vary in numbers that much, but they're covered like 5 times as much during Republican administration because the pitch is like, look at these heartless, rich bastards, Scrooge McDuck assholes throwing people out on grates. And it's just like there's no change in the homeless population, only in the frequency of the discussion.
Only in the writing.
And they keep using that same like stock footage of the homeless dude, and he gets no residuals whatsoever.
Right. Same guy. He could be wealthy.
So I noticed like in 2015, it's like, okay, I was doing that, and during the campaign of Hillary and Trump, I was totally prepared for, all right, Hillary's going to win, and let me get all my ideas, my sketch ideas to make fun of Hillary. And then Trump won, which was kind of like an impossible thing. And I think when that happened, suddenly you had all these people who were like, Trump is an existential threat. Trump is climate change. Trump is a meteor coming at the earth. And we need to stop him by any means necessary, really. And when you're a comedian, the only means that you have are jokes. So I think a lot of comedians ended up just aiming their jokes at this same target. And it got to a point where I had friends of mine who were, diehard Democrats, where if they were to make a joke about a Democrat, like a buddy of mine made a joke about like London Breed having a name of a porn star. And people were like, how could you even do that at this moment in history? Like, as if him goofing on this woman's name is somehow going to throw the election. Trump. Yeah, elevating Trump.
A black woman, Lou. Black woman. Right. A black bisexual woman. A proud liberal black. I mean, I can actually, I can see this at like a cocktail party I would go to in Chicago or even downtown Louisville. Like, anyone that made that joke would get that bullshit from a certain group of people.
Exactly. So I think the shift was really there, where it was like comedy was was no longer like this thing where you treated everybody equally, like speaking truth to power, and it really became well, who's in power, who do we want in power, and then that will determine what truths we speak and to whom we speak.
Oh my God. Yeah, I think that it's good to hear what it was like to be there, to be on stage, to hear other comedians and talk to them and talk about, well, I can't do this joke, or watch people test jokes and watch them bomb things that would have been that were totally funny, right? But as the audience just looking at that, I guess we notice. Obviously, people notice that all the jokes were one-sided. I don't think we really noticed that. I mean, I may have because I observed a little more, but the average person, they didn't notice that because if it was still funny, it's funny, right? Yeah, all the jokes about Trump, but they're funny. We noticed when they stopped being, when the joke wasn't funny anymore, as the book title says. We noticed when it's like, it's the same joke, or they're trying
Right.
really hard, or I mean, before we thought it was, I guess uneven in its coverage. We just thought it was lazy,
Yeah.
right? When you say that, Will, that people notice that they turn on Saturday Night Live and every cold open was the same, and it just elevated. It started off moderately funny. You go, okay, and then you just like that wasn't funny. Then it's like that's just stupid, and it just kept getting worse and worse. And then it was spread, so other sitcoms would be the same. And Trump did make it worse because every sitcom had to have a Trump factor, or I noticed. Will, do you notice this? That I don't know how much scripted TV you. I started watching it like the beauty of TV that's recorded. You can fast forward through. I started watching it just to say it's almost like a drinking game to see how long before they got to the evil, capitalist, or the mistreatment of an illegal person, or some gender thing. Every episode had one of those, regardless of what the sitcom was about. It could be a corny sitcom about silly high school students, but one of those three things would find a way to come up. So is that where you think, Will, people realized that the comedy was shifting?
Well, I think, yeah. So first of all, just in that zone of comedy, I think that that's become almost a joke over the past couple of years. If you're like a funny, I mean, I'm by no means a comic, but like if you're a funny writer, you contribute pieces, like people have mocked this repeatedly for like outlets that I've written for that have like a pop culture face. Like, I mean, the lead writer for Saturday Night Live once said, like, I couldn't make fun of Barack Obama. It would physically hurt me. This is a quote. He's like a man carved from a block of pure obsidian. There's nothing funny about him. Now, Barack Obama's a guy with like these giant jug ears who is prone to these like insanely pedantic statements about shit he didn't know anything about.
Right.
Youngest president in history. His wife clearly sometimes wears pants in that relationship. Like they killed a bunch of people with drones and blew up cars in the middle of public roadways, sometimes full of Americans. So I mean, there's clearly plenty there. But I mean, yes, when a major television program starts saying that kind of thing, something that's a bit of a cultural icon, I mean, yeah, people notice that. The one thing I notice is that this goes a lot beyond television. This division of everything into polarized left and right, with the left being even more obnoxious, is everywhere. I mean, so like I went on Wikipedia the other day just to get like a lazy reference for an article. And I looked up cultural Marxism, which is like a right slanted, right coded, but it's just a very prevalent theory describing the influence of all these goddamn red commie professors in the university. And the Wikipedia article opened like a right wing anti Semitic conspiracy theory that has been repeatedly debunked. Source, like some guy that used to work for MSNBC. And like you could edit the article. I mean, I did a little bit, but it's just, you see that sort of thing everywhere, like the partisan back and forth nonsense with more liberals. So yeah, everyone noticed that about Saturday Night Live. Everyone noticed that about a lot of things, right? Like Bud Light spokesman was Dylan Mulvaney. At least one of them, one of the people on the big cans that they had in the stores. So you look at that and you're just like, what? Why is this? This isn't funny. I don't like this. And now you're seeing that backlash.
So Lou, the comedy was getting weaker. It was getting one-sided and getting lazy. There's obviously talented people out there that could be doing more, but then just like everything else that affected the culture crosses the board. Same thing happens with comedy. And so we talk about the cancel culture. Now, cancel culture is funny because we know what it really means and what it really entails. People will play the word games and say it only means like you fired a guy or somebody, all these limited things, and not the fear of. It's not how your reaction to. It's not that you're changing jokes, or it's not that you're doing the same comedy you've always been doing, but now you're getting booked less, right? Those things could happen. So that can be a silencing or a canceling if you're a writer on a show and you can't get a gig, or things of that nature. So I know who was the guy. I'm sure you know his name. Shane, right?
Yeah, Shane Gillis.
Shane Gillis, right? He young comedian, up and coming, got that tap to go on Saturday Night Live. He was there 3 days, and right.
Oh, I don't even know if he made it a day.
He didn't make it in the door. They fired him because of not tweets, not all that, but jokes he told years ago, right? Years before.
I think it was I think he was on it might have been his podcast.
A podcast. He had a podcast, right?
He was talking about Chinatown or something like that, and I
right.
think he threw out the word chink or something. I don't. Yeah.
Now you did.
I know. It's one of my favorite words. So.
Yeah. So I mean, like, it'd be funny if like all of us got canceled just for discussing it in context. Like, yeah. So I mean, obviously, people say chink sometimes, meaning no offense, using the word in literature.
But was he saying it like calling somebody a chink, or was he saying
one's
a chink
armor? Yeah, in one's armor. Yeah.
So, no, I mean, that's actually someone was nearly fired for that in the context of the NBA. They were talking about, you guys might correct this, but like Jeremy Lin. Actually, won't correct this. There are only like 2 Asians in the league. I mean, but so the guy is talking about Jeremy Lin, and he's like, well, he's one of the better players out there, young gun, 17 points a game, but I think there's a chink in his armor. And you could see that when he said it, he was like, oh, for God's sake, like, is there going to be an issue? And yep, that's a career right there. I mean, so I think now we're kind of getting a little tired of this kind of thing. Like, obviously, none of us are using the term, which refers to a crack in wood most of the time, as a racial insult. But that's the thing Papa John got fired for too, right?
Yeah, for saying stuff, for quoting a word on a conference call or whatever. It's not like I said, nigga, you just said it.
Well, yeah, like, I'll just say the words too. Like, I mean, we're all grown men. Like he said, yeah, we're in a better place when it comes to business marketing. We obviously no longer say nigger, or I might have been called a wop. We're through that. Now let's talk about what we can do. And it was this very positive speech. Right. Like, the head of the company is coming in to talk. Everyone loved it. But someone was like, a white man said nigger. And that became the story. And they ended up getting rid of the owner. I don't know how that happened. Did he agree to step down?
Yeah. And then the others, you've heard the professor, right? Now, I don't know if he got his job back. He was teaching Mandarin.
Oh, yeah.
And, in Mandarin, I only know because my son's learning Mandarin. It's like when they pause and they go, instead of they go, nigga, right? And he was saying, it's like the way they use it. And he explained how it was used, and they said it was a slur.
I mean, to me, there's a political aspect to this, which is that so again, like in the hood, I still think it would suck to live in like West Louisville as a white kid, or, South Boston as a black kid or something. But in like most middle-class neighborhoods, like there's almost no racism, at least no open racism. I'm sure that people won't date, whoever sometimes. But the whole system, the whole idea of wokeness rests on the idea that everyone's a bigot. Like, it's out there. It's going to get you. Can't take the SAT. So you have to find examples. So if you say, well, my professor said nigga 100 times in class, that sounds really horrific until you realize he said like miga, because he's Chinese. I mean, so it's like almost every case collapses like that. When you really unpack these cases, it's never, of course not. Of course, there's not some academic standing in front of the class like, you know what I hate? Spoons, who's not talking about like his attic.
Even if he does, he's not going to say it.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. Like, I've sometimes, when I hear these stories from like, there's a black reporter recently who wrote an article, and he was describing the letters he gets. And he's like, from specified addresses, people will send me my own articles with their visible fingerprints on them, and they'll cross out the word black and they'll write in nigger 100 times. I'm just like, no, they don't. Like, nobody's doing that. Like, no businessman reading like the Presidio Press Journal is going to do that and just screw up their whole life. Right. No, they would type it on a computer if they're that crazy. Yeah. It's just like a lot of this stuff is obvious nonsense. Like, I mean, we keep bringing up these cases, but like the Brigham Young thing, where Duke was playing BYU, bit of a rival game of some side sport like volleyball, and they claimed that the fans the entire game were chanting anti-black slurs. Like, of course that didn't happen.
Right. So go ahead, Lou.
Oh no, I remember that one. I think people were saying like, okay, everyone there has a phone,
right?
Where's the evidence?
We were too offended to record it, Lou.
Yeah, but
it turned out they were probably saying cougars, like cougars, because Brigham Young is the Cougs. Yeah, I mean they've got a big cougar. It's like a cougar in like a Mormon outfit because they wear those khakis and stuff to go door to. Anyway, however cool or uncool their mascot is, the point is that obviously there's not a mob of people that just spontaneously decide to chant like "nigga, nigga." It's cougar. Right. It's always gonna be cougar.
Well, and what's funny is actually if you wanted to hear a crowd do something like that, you'd have to go to a soccer game in Europe because they feel a lot more open about
It's funny because it's against the law, and if they catch them, they'll arrest them. But
well, I also think that's more like what we're talking about with working class neighborhoods. They also throw bananas at black players, and if you're French, they assume you're gay, so they make kissy face noises and throw roses at you, or they'll just chant like you're queer. I mean, they do that kind of like crazy stuff. I mean, so that's like the dog pound in a football game. Like I find that offensive, but I don't think that's like upper middle class. Like this is the policy of the society. If they catch those guys, they're banned for life.
But to that, Lou, isn't that the way you do that in a sense? Then we'll get to, I'm gonna play a clip of your comedy here too. You talk about how you push back against what you do. A lot of the comedy that's racially tinged or touching on the power on some kind of sensitive point, you still do it. You just take a level, you go a tier down from the most obvious, right? So I'll give one example. I can't remember what it was. So like if you say a joke in today's climate, you're white, you say a joke about a black person, that'd be racist. You say, and black people, and then he can't swim, or some stereotype, people get mad. But they did this skit where and people get mad on Twitter because they get mad about everything. But in the real world, people think it's funny. So they're doing this skit and the black people are reacting and they're talking and stuff. And they ask them, what do you think of this? And the black people are like, well, I like it. And they're just talking normal. But the joke of the skit was that the smoke detector was beeping in the background.
That's become a meme. Like where people, I think like, it's like now people are just like putting in comments. I was like, they're just putting beep. Like, what is that? What does that mean? And now it's the whole smoke detector thing. Which is there any science?
I never knew that there was a thing. Will, I mean,
it would be wild if you had your smoke detector beeping right now behind you and you had no idea.
Has that always been a thing?
That actually would be hilarious. I'm gonna do that for the next episode. Like I'm gonna have like a cigarette and an ashtray just so the detector goes off. No, the thing with the smoke detector beeping is like really specific. And that's something I see all the time with Appalachian kids during Zoom calls, by the way, not to like stereotype them, but the idea is that it's a poor and to some extent, especially a black thing. And it's not there's like a fire in your house. It's that you've been lazy about changing the battery. Because dad's not there in some of the jokes. And so there's like that very low beep every like 15 minutes, like beep, beep, beep.
Right.
And I think the first person I ever heard call that out was Adam Carolla on Loveline. Because in this portion of California, it would be mostly like white trash couples would be the stereotype. But I mean, like, he'd have these people calling in like, yeah, I think Phoebe's cheating on me with 2 other men. And then it'd be like, beep, 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 beep. And the oven would be going. And Carolla was always just like, okay, you're going to have to fix a lot of things in your life before you can keep a woman. And it would start with like, take your food out, clean up your house,
get the 9-volt
batteries in that bitch. Is there science behind that? Like, no. But I mean, like, people have, like, do poor people do that more than rich people? I don't know. No one's
right, but I've been black for a few years and I had never heard that before. I was like, really, is that a black thing? I know most.
That's because you're not a bum, Charles.
Are you guys?
Your house is clean. You have a job. No, I mean, like, people are really making this into the craziest memes. Like, there was like a funny, like, mildly racist, but just like urban white kid who did a fake book cover called "I Know Why the Ceiling Bird Sings." It's like wings on a smoke detector. I mean, so like the internet is undefeated when it comes to like people busting on each other along racial lines and so on.
But Lou, my point is that when you do it that way, you're less likely for people to get offended right until they catch up with you because they don't get it at first. It's a slow burn, so you have to kind of be creative about the way you still poke fun at the same people.
Yeah, I have this one joke where I say that I had to move out of my apartment because it was haunted. And I said it was a little awkward, though, because it was haunted by black ghosts. And I didn't want them to think we were leaving because they were black, 100% because they were ghosts. And sometimes, like the audience, and then part of it, I say we now live in the suburbs, and I got to say we are very happy with the white ghosts that live in our house. But sometimes, like, it'll split the audience. Like they'll get it. There are a lot of people who will just hear a word like black and immediately that will trigger them and get them like really apprehensive or, just downright like offended right off the bat. And it'll cut them off from being able to hear what the punchline is. And I mean, that's something that I think, that's more like a personal thing people just need to work on because you gotta hear the setup and the punchline for, comedy to work.
That's something I've noticed more the past couple of years, like people being hypersensitive about. So it's like defining deviancy down is what we'd say in criminal justice or political science. Like as something fades, you start looking for it more. Like purple starts to look like blue. But I mean, so I've noticed people starting to get offended by terms themselves, like Lou just said. So like if in class, if I say blacks, like yeah, whites and blacks, they clash sometimes, they get along well enough. Someone would say, like, you said whites and blacks, not like Caucasians and African Americans. Well, let me tell you. And it's just like, shut up, kid, I'm talking here. But like there is a level at which you don't want to offend anyone, but also you recognize like that is completely crazy. Like saying black people to describe black people is not offensive to 95% of the people that have ever lived. The most extreme version of this I've ever seen once, I was at some like macho event. It was like running from the Bulls in Chicago like 8 years ago. Mm-hmm. And my friends were talking about like, I'm from a neighborhood that's mixed black, Bosnian, and Hispanic, roughly, like more Hispanics now, Eastern Europe, that lives a teenager. And we were talking about like getting in fights with black kids in high school and how no one really thought they were any tougher than anybody else. Like, physically skilled, but a bit erratic. And someone said like, yeah, I'm not afraid of like young black dudes at all. And their girlfriend, I remember getting really pissed off at them. Like, you can't just say that. You can't just say young black dudes. You can't talk about beating up black people. All this stuff is totally off limits. And the rest of us were utterly puzzled and started asking, well, could we say that about whites or Asians or Hispanics? Yeah, that's all fine. That's all fine. But don't bring up blacks and don't say blacks. So it's intensifying.
They're special.
And it is something where when you have like an outsider like that, your friend's girl come in and you're like, wait a minute, you're the weird one here. You're the alien. Sure. You're the one taking offense, where obviously, look at us, we're not taking offense on.
Well, I want to get to what we should do, what comedians should do, what fans of comedy should do to kind of turn the tide on this. And I want to start by showing what you're doing. You've done these series of what is it? Comedy is Murder? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, Comedy is Murder, sketch comedy series with Free the People.
Yeah, so I'm going to show one now. This is the most recent one. I think I've seen them all. They're all good. The one I think is the best, not because it's the funniest or it's better done than the others, is the Mother Nature, which is not the one I'm going to show. I implore you to go check it out. It's because it's so spot on that you're almost like, is this satire? Because I can actually see this happen. But sometimes you want it to be a little over the top. And I think this new one it's kind of the case. Let's see if I can share this one. I know I can share. I'm hoping there's no issue with the audio.
As sensitivity readers, we all know that some of the language in Roald Dahl's books is outdated. And quite frankly, it's offensive.
Very disappointing.
So, in order to market these works to a new generation of young readers, we need to update the text to make it more palatable for the times.
We're good people.
If I may, for a second, I'm not sure changing a few words is going to make a difference to younger readers.
That's why we don't just want to take something away. We want to add something as well.
Interesting.
As we can all agree, the word fat is regressive and unacceptable. So, in The Witches, when Roald Dahl refers to the fat, jolly lady, not only have we removed the word fat, but we made the jolly lady a man in drag.
I'm sorry, why do we make the lady a man in drag?
Representation matters, Dave.
What does a man in drag have to do with the kids' book?
You're asking the wrong questions.
What's the right question?
I love this artwork.
That's not a question.
Can we move on?
I think we should.
Agreed.
No.
Now, in Matilda, we'll be removing the words crazy and mad because it's inappropriate to assume someone's mental state.
I've been called mad before. I'm not crazy.
I shouldn't have called you that. I'm sure you had a very good reason for throwing that trash can through my windshield. I'm sorry. I was gaslighting you.
Apology accepted. For now.
Is that what happened to your Miata?
Dave, pay attention. So in Matilda, the word mad will now become the word dotty. And here's the new illustration.
Why is Matilda dreaming about a dildo?
She's an orphan.
And?
She's struggling to find herself.
She found herself in a dildo?
It's not about the dildo. It's about her journey of self-exploration.
Really feels like it's about the dildo.
And what, is that crazy?
Yeah, kinda.
We should change the title to Madildo.
That's great, but we are going to need to run that by the family first.
They love it. One small request, though. They want the dildo to be fatter. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to use that word. They want the dildo to be
Thicker.
thick. Like my wife's boyfriend.
Perfect. And finally, in James and the Giant Peach, cloud men will now be referred to as cloud people.
That's fine, I guess.
And also, James is now on puberty blockers.
What are we doing here?
Dave, don't you get it?
Obviously, I don't.
This is what librarians are fighting for.
Librarians.
These words are bad. This is good.
Wait. Are we just making everything in Doll's books genderqueer?
Yeah.
Oh, I love genderqueer. I read this to my kids last night. I am totally for this. I was just saying I think there should be more dildos. Was that not clear?
More dildos. I like that. We are going to need to run that by the family.
Love it. They just want,
Thick.
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 Thick. Like my boyfriend.
You know, Dave, in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, we do need to take out references to the Oompa Loompas as no higher than my knee. What do you think we should do?
What if we made the Oompa Loompas small?
Go on.
Non-binary kids with cool parents who actually listen to their kids and peg each other with dildos?
My man.
I have an idea. What if we update the very hungry caterpillar, but instead of eating food, the caterpillar is eating ass?
I love it.
I love it.
Do they love it?
They love it.
I love it.
All proceeds go to Hamas.
Okay. So you see how that might be a little more over the top as compared to Mother Nature, but you made fun. So why would that not offend people, Lou? But of course you don't care. But what does it take to have more people willing to make fun of everyone to that degree?
Well, I mean, as an entrepreneur, I hope nobody else makes fun of people. If everyone else just got out of comedy, I'd be okay with that.
Right.
I think I have to say, I think we're in a much better place than we were 3 years ago with this stuff. I think there's been a lot of pushback and a lot of people saying like, you know what, I'm gonna laugh at the shit I want to laugh at. I'm gonna like it on social media and share it and go from there. So I'm a lot more hopeful about the future and a lot more comfortable putting stuff out because I think the audience is out there. And also I think people are hungry to make fun of this shit too.
Right. You know what's funny though? I'm going to do the opposite here. A lot of times I push back on a lot of people who put too much weight on the influence of certain people, certain groups, and certain parties. And not to diminish them. I mean, people are doing a lot of work on whatever they believe, and it matters, right? But it's like with the regular people going to work, do they really see it? Like, Will and I have had debates with guests about the effectiveness of Candace Owens, how much influence she has or she doesn't have. I'm like, it's not as much as you think. I mean, she's effective without a doubt, but it's not like the average Black person's walking around like, oh, Candace Owens, right? So I think about it like that. GOP outreach, well, what do you really expect? There's a high bar that you can probably get to, and you're not going to affect more people than that. But in entertainment, because of their breadth of influence, and it's across race and party line, it mattered. So what effect do you think Chappelle, you mentioned Chappelle earlier, but not only him making the jokes, lots of comedians, even with a sizable audience, will make certain jokes, but him standing in that up against that attack and then doubling down and making another special, still talking about it. And, what effect did that have on comedy and those who wanted to push back with him just saying, I'm gonna do what I want to do and I don't care that you're offended?
Well, I think one thing that he did was that he continued to be funny, so I could see there's been like how many specials? I think probably 3 specials where Chappelle takes on the trans stuff and the response to the trans stuff. So, in a way, it's sort of like, oh man, do I have to see the first episode in order to understand, the other one? So I think in a way that might maybe hurt the specials,
right?
Because they're so they're so reliant on the others,
right?
But when you watch them, I mean, I'm laughing, you know? So it wasn't like, you know, Chappelle got up there and just started saying like, woe is me, I'm being attacked, I'm this free speech warrior and all this. He still is a master of his craft of comedy. And I think that's really important, is to continue to make people laugh. Like I used to get this question a lot about, like, you know, do you think that, you know, comedy can help change the culture and all that? And you know, at some point I was like, that's asking a lot of me, you know? And it's really like, all I can hope for is to take somebody who isn't laughing, show them something I did, and make them laugh. And if I could do that, then I think I'm doing all right. I think I'm doing my job. And as far as, you know, monumental changes and you know, being a beacon of light, I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah, that's too much, isn't it, Will? I think the most you can do. I mean, he's achieving at his level at that point, like you said, if he's just making them laugh. But the most he can do beyond that is really shine a light on silly stuff, stuff that's being done that makes no sense, and have you laugh at it, thinking, yeah, you know, that's right. That doesn't make sense. I didn't think about that. But you're not changing anything. But you know, what do you think of that? What of comedy? How much effect can comedy have?
I mean, first of all, I think that definitely can change the culture. I mean, so, you know, this isn't necessarily as funny as Lou, who's a professional comedian, but I mean, I remember watching What is a Woman, like the conservative movie about transgenderism, and that actually legitimately, within my kind of circle of college, post-college friends, a lot of junior academics, did change the conversation. Because this guy, who himself, not an academic, very smart guy, well-known media host, brought in the best experts on transgenderism and just let them talk. And they said crazy shit like, do chickens have souls? And so those lines are now out there in public, right? So every time someone starts saying this crap, like, I am a woman, other smart citizens will just say, well, what is a woman? What does that mean to you? Do you have a soul? You know, does a chicken cry? Like, it's just made the idea inherently ridiculous that you can put on a wig and become a beauty queen looking like any of us. Not that we're not beautiful men. So, I mean, that comedy, that focus, one of the most effective ways to critique something is to ridicule it.
Right.
That goes back to the ancient Greeks. You just point out this is absolutely ridiculous.
Right.
Like, you know, you Persian guys have armor made out of wicker, right? Like, here's a spear. You know, like pointing out what reality is. The emperor's new clothes. This all is hilarious. Aristophanes, the frogs, blah, 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 the African stuff. So, I mean, I wouldn't downplay comedy at all. But the one point you guys made that I think is very important is that to do this, the shit has to be good. Like, there's a tendency among partisan people, like, this is true for wokes. This is true if you've ever listened to any Christian rock and buddy dragged you along to like a youth pastorage or something. Like, the message is very clear and it's often very good, but the art sucks. Everything woke that I've ever seen, if you read Judith Butler or something, it's garbage. 99% of Christian rock, trash. It's cheats. So, like, if you're going to make comedy poking fun, being anti-woke, it's got to be funny, which this was. What is a Woman was. I mean, there's now this whole subgenre of like edgy comics, right? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, like, I think that's good. I think it's effective. I don't hate any of those guys. But if they start sucking, like if there's so many of them, that there's an anti-woke glut like there is with MAGA rap, for example, I mean, I think that's going to become easier to mock in return.
Yeah, I'd like to make 2 quick points. Don't lose your thought, Lou. One, as a disclaimer to the show, when you talked about how What is a Woman was so effective because they just brought these people on and let them talk. You know, I say, because, you know, I don't know if you get it, Will, but I get sometimes attacked on our shows when we have people that don't necessarily agree with them and I don't attack them. I'm like, just let them speak. Let them say what they want to say. And if what they say doesn't make sense, now you know what, now we're not taking them out of context, right? They have 40 minutes to make their case. And if they didn't do it, that it's on record. It's not, I don't need to yell at them and say that doesn't make sense. But some people are like, you should have said this to that person. I'm like, yeah, you know, well, whatever. But then the other thing, you said it's got to be good. And I do want to make a point, to be fair, as someone who leans right, that I used to laugh a lot at liberals because they used to make fun of conservatives. They used to make fun of some things that I believe, but they were good. Like one example I used to use, because he's a really good example, because he was a great writer. I think the crack played part of it too, because then he went downhill. It's Aaron Sorkin, right? Everything he touched turned to gold for 15 years, right? Whether you were a Democrat or Republican, the West Wing was well written. What was the one with Jeff Daniels? He wrote that whole monologue on that show. All that was really good. And then Trump won. And I don't know if you remember, his demise was he wrote a letter to his daughter in like the New York Times. Aaron Sorkin, brilliant guy, wittiest shot. I mean, you watch what was the show with Robert Guillaume and Jeff Charles? It was like ESPN kind of thing, Sports Night, right? The jokes were so well written, but so timely. It was coming so fast. And here, this same guy is writing a letter, a long letter in the newspaper to his daughter, poorly written, full of expletives about how he's sorry he screwed up the country and he's a terrible dad and a terrible person because Trump won.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just like, well, people convert to being crazy, right? Like, I mean, there used to be real bands that started making Christian rock, and you can only say Jesus so many times in a song and still have everything rhyme, you know? I mean, there's a sharp left, liberals and left, like, it is one or two of us are probably classical liberals. Like, you know, abortion in the first trimester, is that okay or something? Healthcare, should the government play a role? Those are questions very different from like, should we censor speech because all white men are bad? So when people get into that religious zone, I do think that what they produce is usually garbage. I mean, that like a lot of the old shows that were written by liberals, I think of like 30 Rock, where there's a show I have a soft spot for. I watched a bunch of it. But like the characters are hilarious. Like there's the older senior female executive, and there's her boss who is a Republican who's kind of an asshole. You know, there's her crazy, the slutty actress, you know, like slept her way to the top and now worries about aging. And all these people, if you've ever been in business, much less show business, are incredibly realistic.
Right.
So like you can make jokes, like what does the liberal say to the conservative, and have the liberal win 55% of the time. Like that's fine. We get what's going on. Right. You can't have utter morality plays where every show is about, like you guys mentioned, like the illegal alien turns out to be part of the high school football team or something. That's not funny anymore. You can't make jokes about these very serious topics week after week after week and have them hit most of the time.
Right, Lou, the serial killer would have been caught, but the only witness was illegal and we deported him.
And then we defunded the police, like the one Republican character talks. Like, that's not what anyone wants to see. Like, one quick thing. Like, I remember watching the NBA when they let the players pick, like, causes to put on their jerseys.
I used to watch the NBA. I'm sorry, go.
No, yeah. I mean, back in the day when they used to pass the goddamn ball. But no, this isn't the point. Like, just, I was watching, and for the first couple of weeks, they let you pick anything on the left or the right. They later became just social justice. But there was a game where I might be getting this wrong, but it was like, Choose Life or something like that was guarding like Black Lives Matter, and most of them had woke shit on. So like Black Lives Matter passes off the ball to Agency or Freedom or something, and they're just running down the court. It's like, I have no interest in this crap. Like, I don't care what you guys' views are on abortion or like inner city policing. I just want to see you dime the ball a little better. So like when you forcibly take the realities of the front page that you read on the train and you put that in every damn thing in life, nobody wants that.
I did a short comedy series for We the Internet TV, and we got together a bunch of fans of sports who want more politics in sports. So it was stuff like, you know, we want Steph Curry to make sure that he gives a speech about women's rights before the free throws, and you know, and that's what they're looking at. Yeah, I think you made Charles, you made a really good point, and Will, you too, just about the difference between you know, liberals and wokes or liberals and leftists. And I noticed that because I had a debate with comedian Michael Ian Black.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, for
same day as the school board meeting, so I shouldn't go, but I forgive you.
Oh, that's right. I tried to switch it up. I tried to switch it. So it was for Open to Debate, and it's available online.
Okay.
And we were debating, is wokeness killing comedy? And I took the yes side, he took the no side. And what I noticed was Michael he's been a comedian longer than I have. You know, he's in his past, he did stuff. He wore blackface. He did jokes about gays and AIDS and, you know, just all these, you know, third rail things. And I had brought those up in the debate, and he admitted that he would no longer feel comfortable doing that now. But what was interesting was at no point was he ever saying, if you were to make those jokes today, you shouldn't work again. And so there was like this real distinction where here's a guy who a lot of people might think is woke, but really he's not woke because there isn't this censorious element to him. Right. He's not trying to get people fired or anything like that. He's into he wants comedians to think about, you know, the context, right. You know, and I, in a way, like I kind of had to explain to him, like, no, if you're woke, you know, context doesn't matter. Nope. Intent doesn't matter. What matters is the aftermath. So actually, I came out of that debate feeling more positive also about comedy, because I feel like there are a lot of people, you know, who are just willing to, you know, stand up and say like, okay, this stuff makes sense. We should get back to what makes sense.
All right. So, I mean, I guess we could just end on you telling everybody where they can find you, what you're doing, what you're selling, you know, hawk some stuff. It's all things Lou.
Sure. Yeah, you guys could check me out at the Lou Perez on social media, my website, thelouperez.com, and my book, That Joke Isn't Funny Anymore. Where is it? Over here.
Somewhere around there. Yeah.
Somewhere around there.
There you go. You found it. Yeah.
About your not 11 o'clock.
Yeah, he got it. He found it. Hey,
there we go.
Yeah, well, check him out. Check him out sometimes on Cut the Bull, and watch the rest of those. What is this? How many Free the People things? Yeah, at least 6.
I think we have 6. Yeah,
you have to watch the Mother Nature one. The Mother Nature is you're gonna, you know, now the cat's out, but if you saw it without me telling you, you might think it was real.
Thanks,
because I can see them talking like that. But Lou, thanks for coming on and being the center square, so to speak, on this week. The
Paul Lind of Cut the Bull. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Thanks.
I got a country to say, God bless the US of A, land of the free and a home of the brave. God get all of the praise. I got a country to say, cause I'm Patriot J and I'm saving a day.